Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. James Raggi has a huge post up on Facebook. This is the Twitter thread that resulted in a large post on Facebook. So I'm going to address the Twitter thread first because it's about, I guess, blackballing um, an editor and James' response. Now, James was nice. He took out the name of the publisher and the products they're working on. You can find this quite easily on Twitter. Not saying you should, but it's certainly there. So, dear all, today it has come to our attention that one of the editors on X product is currently working on Lamentations of the Flame Princess and has been involved with other problematic works that have received widespread critique for bigotry and other harmful issues. We believe that these are highly problematic games by authors and companies whose politics and actions we vehemently disagree with. While we were unaware of this prior to hiring him, it was our responsibility to check the work history of freelancers we work with. We are sorry that we did not do so as carefully as we should. We would also like to be clear that this editor has no developmental role in X product. He was hired on a freelance basis purely for proofing and editing. In order to avoid ourselves and our other contributors, oh my God, this is why you need an editor. They shouldn't have fired the guy so quickly. In order to avoid ourselves, always avoid yourself. Order to avoid ourselves and our other contributors being associated with these damaging politics and actions. Um, we have removed the editor's name from all of the blank books. We will not be working with them again in future. In the future. I'm not an editor. I don't play one on TV. But if you are going to fire an editor and proofer of your material, maybe you should employ one for the tweet that announces it. I'm just saying. And I was going to say, well, maybe this person's not a native English speaker. I believe the company is a UK company. So, yeah, I think English speaking is certainly, I don't know, in their wheelhouse. So this is James's response, and it's a good response. It's a powerful response, and not everybody's up on Facebook. Not everybody's on Twitter. I know they're cesspools, but somebody's got to be there. Thousands of people. This is James have apparently seen this. Now, last I checked, this tweet had over like 70,000 views, and hundreds more every time I refresh the page. And so I think addressing it rather than ignoring it is in order. I hope I've successfully obscured identifying information since publicly pointing and laughing at children or the mentally disadvantaged, and whoever's behind this is surely one or the other, is in bad form. Well said, James. So then, one, I've recently done open calls for both writers and artists I've been involved in at, and that's at the Tavern, and have commissioned work from some of the applicants. The vetting I have done, looking at the links they sent me that had samples of their work. Well, why would that be a priority to see somebody's prior work? I didn't look any of them up on social media to spy on them or judge them. Didn't ask their demographic categories. Oh well, then James, you're missing out on the new year, man. You didn't get the updates. Didn't ask who they've previously worked with. Many do volunteer this. Didn't ask if they had a day job or what it is. Oh well, uh, retired cop James. Just in case you're ever asking if I ever get an offer from you, just remember my background. I know that makes or breaks it in some circles. Or ask what social issues they support or protest. These things are none of my business. They don't matter, and therefore I don't care. They have nothing to do with the final product. They have nothing to do with art. And this is me speaking. People who do want to know these things and consider them important think they are better than you and want to control you. Another one of these, remove the name actions. Yes, you saw they removed this person's name, but I don't believe they removed their editing. So they're going to have done work on products. The name's going to be removed. Well, assuming they're still going to get paid for the work they did, they're not going to get credit for it. Well, that's certainly stupid. But stupid as stupid does. Cowards, you really think this association is actually damaging and truly want to distance yourself? Remove their actual work. In this case, scrap your current books and send a pre-edited text to a new editor and do all the follow-on work from scratch. That's too much work, James. Come on. That would cost extra money. They're not going to do that. They will take the work that's been paid for, scratch the serial numbers off, and listen, let's be honest. I don't. It's not a slight to anyone who does editing, but I don't recognize names. I recognize names of artists. I recognize names of writers. I very rarely recognize the names of editors. So I don't think many people would have. If this rot is real, it's still there, even if you try to make it invisible. When people of this political persuasion talk about damaging politics, what they mean is any politics different from theirs. And fair enough. My politics are probably very different from theirs and yours. As in you reading this. This is where I'll once again and again and again note that the last time I voted, my chosen candidate got 0.32% of the vote. So I'm not likely to ever line up with anyone's political groups. And I haven't voted in any election, Finnish or American, since 2004 because there's been no one for me to vote for. I don't vote against people. Fair enough. I can respect that. I am the perfect enemy for anyone that thinks creative communities and industries should reflect how they think. 4. I support artists whose words or actions I vehemently disagree with all the time. I literally don't understand how I could function at all as a fan, let alone a producer of film, music, TV, literature, RPGs, or any other thing otherwise. Is art, and I feel like a pretentious twat, sorry, throwing that term around, the, the point or isn't it? When people of this political persuasion use the word problematic, what the word means is interesting. Anything outside of their fuzzy comfort zone, anything in fiction that doesn't agree with how they think things should be in real life, any art that doesn't act as propaganda for their worldview, it gets labeled problematic. As if things they don't like shouldn't exist, and in cases like this, economic and social pressure should be brought to bear to get rid of it. I'm not joking, and I am not being facetious when I say that problematic in this context literally and actually 100% means interesting. When they complain about problematic things in fiction, it is always the most interesting things in that fiction they are talking about. The difficult things, the things that slap you in the face and make you pay attention. Now, I'll be the first to say that some of the material that's come from Lamentations of the Flame Princess makes me uncomfortable. Some of the material is stuff that I looked at the title and the cover of and said, yeah, I'm not adding that to my collection. Doesn't mean that I feel that others shouldn't have that opportunity. The market will determine what is successful and what isn't. Does a pretty good job about doing that. Moving on. And when they say they are wanting to remove problematic things, they are literally telling you that they want to eliminate anything and anyone that is interesting. Just a reminder, when I was having Greg Christopher on a live stream on Talking Crit to talk about his Shadow Sun setting, somebody commented on Facebook that I don't know who Bad Mike is, but Tenkar is problematic. But then they wouldn't go on and describe how I was problematic when they were asked to do so. It's a way to be dismissive of people, of publishers, of companies, of anything, of material that you do not personally agree with. I don't know. It's one of those words that is often used by people who don't want to actually describe why they are offended. I'll just say it's problematic and just leave it at that. And that is why I wanted to address this rather than simply ignore it. This is the hill to die on because if I lose this hill, if we lose this hill, then we lose everything. There would be no more I think this is cool. This speaks to me, for me, or for you because every single thing being created will basically be put in front of a PMRC/MPAA style committee that gets to judge whether something is suitable for public consumption based on whatever the consensus is at that particular moment. Isn't that what they wanted with the updated OGL? They wanted to have a morality clause, but who declares what fits and what doesn't? Right? Everybody's morality is a little bit different. Where does that line get drawn? No creative work should be subject to consensus or corporate HR standards just to exist. And you might think the consensus today is to your liking, but tomorrow it'll be something different. It's always something different. What this industry is a bunch of nuts. And yes, everyone talented in the RPG space is in some way mental. And I am using that language very deliberately. Have the urge to create and the ego to think other people should see or even pay for it for a customer base that is made up of nothing but individuals who decide for their own individual selves whether they like or want any individual thing. Again, the market will decide. If a product is good, it will succeed, and if it isn't, it will likely fail. Anyone trying to set up standards or gatekeep what or who is or isn't allowed, anything who wants anything that interferes with or pressures the possibilities of creative expression or anything that creates any sort of barrier between the creator and a potential customer fan is invalid as far as I'm concerned and must be fought. And I have no respect for any of it. And that definitely includes this attempted blackballing bullshit. So you don't like me on my publications? Cool. And I mean that. Cool. You want to interfere with them, punish people for liking them or having worked on them? Well, then we've got a real problem. But whether you love us, hate us, or are completely indifferent, I leave you with one great promise. The best and the worst is all yet to come, and hope you all have a problematic and vehement disagreement about what releases fall under which category. P.S. A few people look at this before posting, and one asked an interesting question. One other thing, if these losers are so worried about not being problematic or associated with problematic politics, why the fuck are they still on Twitter? That's actually a good question. So, folks, listen, there will be a pinned comment at the end of this. James is running a sale at the Lamentations of the Flame Princess PDFs. I will include that link. And as always, I'd like to hear your thoughts, your feedback on this. Be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, roll them well. I'll be back tomorrow with a live stream with a certain individual from Steve Jackson Games, well known for his $1 Kickstarters. Phil something or other. I forget right now, but it should be good. That's tomorrow, 8 o'clock.